January 2026 was supposed to be the year that the narrative finally shifted. After years of royal drama court cases and public back and forth, the Duchess of Sussex was ready to unveil her ultimate masterpiece, a complete digital and lifestyle rebrand. This was the moment for Netflix specials, high-end lifestyle products, and a story of relatability meant to capture the modern woman. But then in the middle of a quiet Tuesday, the internet didn't just break, it shattered. A series of high-definition, never-before-seen photographs began circulating on private forums and high-traffic social platforms, and within hours, they had sent the digital world into a full-scale meltdown. We aren't talking about the same grainy, blurry screenshots that skeptics have argued over since 2019. We aren't looking at recycled rumors or fuzzy silhouettes from a distance. These were fresh, crystal clear, and undeniably concrete. They showed a version of Meghan Markle that the public was never meant to see, and they did so with the kind of clarity that makes the fake news defense impossible to use. What makes this January 2026 leak hit so much harder is the context. These images don't just depict a vacation. They depict an entire lifestyle of ultra-exclusive high-stakes networking that challenges the very foundation of the self-made story the world has been told for nearly a decade. For the first time, people connected to the most secretive circles of Middle Eastern high society are starting to speak up. And the dots they're connecting lead back to a version of Meghan that was meticulously scrubbed from the official record. When you look at these photos, you have to ask, how does a struggling actress from Los Angeles, who was reportedly barely making enough to stay afloat, end up in the inner sanctum of the world's most powerful and private elite? Was the path to the palace a fairy tale? Or was it a decades-long masterclass in strategic positioning? Think about the geography of these leaks for a moment. The photos place Meghan in Monaco and across various Mediterranean hotspots between 2008 and 2012. To the average observer, it looks like a fun summer trip. But for those who understand how the world of the ultra-wealthy actually functions, these photos are a roadmap of a very specific social circuit. We're talking about the kind of environments where the entry fee isn't a ticket or an invitation. It's a vouch from someone who already holds the keys to the kingdom. In these images, Meghan doesn't look like a tourist who wandered onto the wrong deck of a ship. She looks comfortable. She looks practiced. She looks like someone who understands the unspoken rules of high-value social exchange. The setting is luxury that most A-list celebrities would struggle to access. And the people in the background aren't just wealthy. They are influential on a global scale. The financial paradox here is what has everyone talking. During this specific window of time, Meghan's reported income was modest at best. She was a working actor appearing in small roles and trying to find her footing in a notoriously difficult industry. Yet the yachts depicted in these 2026 leaks are worth tens of millions of dollars. The outfits are high-end designer pieces that weren't being gifted to D-list actresses in 2009. The travel alone would have cost more than her annual salary at the time. So the question isn't just, was she there? The question is, who was funding it? Someone paid for the travel. Someone paid for the access. Someone decided that Meghan Markle was a valuable addition to these exclusive gatherings. And in the world of high-stakes networking, those kinds of investments are never made without an expectation of something in return. But that wasn't the whole story. As the internet began to dig deeper into these newly surfaced files, a name kept appearing in the margins of the conversation: Marcus Anderson. To many, he is simply the best friend who helped facilitate the meeting between Harry and Meghan. But to those who follow the Soho House network, he is the ultimate architect of access. Anderson's role was to curate rooms to bring interesting, attractive, and ambitious people into the same spaces as the world's most powerful figures. The 2026 leaks suggest that Meghan was a core part of this networking operation long before she ever landed a role on Suits. She wasn't just a guest. She was a participant in a very specific social economy. This was the practice round for the big stage. She was learning how to navigate influence, how to present herself as a woman of mystery and substance, and how to build relationships with people who could change her life with a single phone call. And what happened next would shock everyone who believed the struggle narrative. In 2011, Meghan's career took a massive, almost unprecedented leap. She went from being an actor who was barely on the radar to a series regular on a major network show. In Hollywood, that kind of jump is rare. It usually requires years of momentum or a massive breakout performance. But for Meghan, it seemed to happen almost overnight, right on the heels of several summers spent networking in the Mediterranean. Now, with the 2026 photos providing a visual timeline, people are looking at that career jump with fresh eyes. Did she land Suits because of a standard audition? Or did the connection she made on those yachts provide the leverage needed to open those doors? The timing is almost too perfect to be a coincidence. It looks less like luck and more like the first major dividend of a very long-term investment in social capital. This is exactly where the international angle starts to get very, very complicated. The leaked photos don't just show Hollywood faces. They show figures connected to Saudi and Gulf state power players. These are circles that treat discretion like a religion. What happens on those private Mediterranean charters is usually guarded by multi-million-dollar non-disclosure agreements and a culture of absolute silence. So why are these images coming out now? Why is the protection suddenly gone? The fact that these photos are leaking in January 2026 suggests that a bridge has been burned. In the world of the global elite, information is a weapon, and it's usually only deployed when someone feels that the balance of discretion has been tilted. If insiders from the Gulf region are allowing these images to circulate, it sends a clear message: the Duchess is no longer part of the protected circle. The timing of this unprotecting couldn't be worse for the Montecito camp. Meghan is currently pushing a version of herself that is rooted in authenticity and honesty. She wants to be seen as the woman who was victimized by a rigid royal system, the woman who had to fight for her voice. But the 2026 yacht leaks tell a different story. They tell the story of a woman who was an expert at navigating systems long before she ever met a prince. They show a woman who knew exactly how to use her image, her connections, and her access to climb the social ladder. The relatable image is being hit by a tidal wave of documentation that suggests her rise was anything but accidental. How do you maintain a brand based on being yourself when the world is looking at proof that you've been playing a role for 20 years? And the silence from her official team is only making the situation more volatile. Usually, the Sussex PR machine is lightning fast when it comes to shutting down rumors. They are famous for their clapbacks and their legal threats against the British press. But with these January 2026 yacht leaks, there has been a deafening, eerie quiet. No statements, no sources close to the Duchess providing context, just total radio silence. That kind of quiet tells the public one thing: the images are real, and they are indefensible. If there was a simple explanation, if these were just innocent vacations with friends, we would have heard it by now. The silence suggests that the Duchess and her team are in damage control mode, trying to figure out how much more evidence is waiting in the wings. Because if one person decided to break the code of silence, who's to say they're the only one? This leads us to the most dangerous question of all: who is actually behind this? You don't just find high-definition photos from a private yacht gathering in 2009. These images were held in a private collection for over a decade. Whoever released them didn't do it for the money, they did it for the impact. They waited for the moment when Meghan would be most vulnerable, the moment when her rebrand was at its peak, and they pulled the pin on a digital grenade. This feels like a strategic takedown, a move made by someone who has been playing the long game for a very long time. Is it a former friend who was discarded during the climb? Is it a business associate who felt the rebrand was a slap in the face to the truth? Or is it something even deeper? A signal from the international elite that they are tired of their world being used as a secret stepping stone. Think about the psychological impact this has on the viewer. For years, the public has been divided into supporters and skeptics. The supporters saw a woman being bullied by an archaic institution. The skeptics saw a social climber who had found the ultimate mark. For a long time, the skeptics had plenty of theories but very little proof. But these 2026 leaks have changed the math. Documentation is a powerful thing. It removes the need for belief and replaces it with observation. When you see the photos, you don't have to wonder if she was there. You can see her. You don't have to wonder if she knew these powerful figures. You can see them laughing together. The fairy tale narrative is being dismantled frame by frame, and in its place is a much more complex and perhaps much more calculating reality. What's even more fascinating is the reaction from the online detective community. Since the photos dropped in January, creators on TikTok and Twitter have been performing frame-by-frame forensics. They are matching the jewelry she wears in the yacht photos to pieces she wore during her early days as a royal. They are identifying the exact yachts, the exact ports, and the exact dates. They are finding the guest lists and the facilitators who were present at every stop. This is the new age of accountability. You can't just scrub your past anymore. The internet is a permanent record, and it only takes one person to press upload for the entire house of cards to come tumbling down. The yachting years are no longer a fringe theory discussed on the dark corners of the web. They are a mainstream reality that the Duchess is going to have to address eventually. But what if this is only the tip of the iceberg? Sources tied to these elite networks are suggesting that the 2026 leaks are just the opening act. They claim that there are records, travel logs, and even video footage that could provide an even deeper look into how these networking relationships were formed and maintained. If that's true, then Meghan's rebrand isn't just in trouble, it's DOA. You cannot build a billion-dollar lifestyle brand on a foundation of authenticity if there is a library of evidence showing that your entire persona is a construction. The public's appetite for truth is at an all-time high, and they are starting to realize that the version of Meghan Markle they were sold might be the most successful role she ever played. This brings us to the value exchange of the elite world. In these high-end circles, nobody gets a free ride. If you are being flown to Monaco, if you are being given access to yachts worth more than some small countries, you are there for a reason. You are there because you provide value. For a rising actress, that value is often her image, her charm, and her ability to navigate these spaces with discretion. The 2026 photos show a woman who was exceptional at that role. But that role is the polar opposite of the vulnerable victim narrative she has pushed since the Megxit split. The clash between these two identities is creating a massive cognitive dissonance in the public mind. People are looking at the 2026 leaks and asking, if she could handle the most cutthroat social circles in the world for 10 years, why was she so traumatized by a few garden parties at Buckingham Palace? The answer to that question might be the most revealing thing of all. Perhaps the trauma wasn't about the rules of the palace. Perhaps it was about the loss of control. In the yachting world, Meghan was the one in control. She was the one building the networks, making the connections, and choosing her path. But in the royal family, the system is the boss. You are a cog in a centuries-old machine. For someone who had spent their entire adult life strategically positioning themselves for power, being told where to stand and what to wear must have felt like a cage. The 2026 leaks suggest that she didn't leave the royal family for privacy. She left so she could get back to being the architect of her own story. The only problem is she forgot that when you are the architect, you are also responsible for the foundation. And if that foundation is built on secrets, it's only a matter of time before the cracks start to show. As we look at the fallout of this January 2026 disaster, it's clear that the Sussex era has entered a new and much more dangerous phase. This isn't just about tabloid gossip anymore. This is about documentation evidence and the breaking of a decades-long silence. The Duchess is finding out the hard way that you can't run from your past forever, especially when your past was lived in the company of people who keep very, very good records. Whether she addresses the photos directly or continues to hide behind the wall of silence, the damage is done. The relatable image has been replaced by the strategic one, and in the court of public opinion, that is a verdict that is almost impossible to appeal. The most shocking thing of all isn't that the photos exist. It's that she thought they would never come out. It's the sheer confidence required to believe you can reinvent yourself so completely that your previous life simply evaporates. But in 2026, the world is smaller than it's ever been. Every deleted file is sitting on a server somewhere. Every private moment was captured by a lens. And every bridge you burn on the way up is a bridge that won't be there to protect you on the way down. The 2026 yacht leaks are a reminder that in the age of information, the truth doesn't just come out, it surfaces with a vengeance. If you've been following this story from the beginning, you know that this is the moment everything changed. The debate is no longer about whether the yachting years happened, it's about what else is left to be revealed. Are we looking at the end of the authentic Duchess brand? Or is there one more pivot left in the playbook? Whatever happens next, one thing is certain, the world is watching, and for the first time in a long time, they are looking past the polish and the PR, and they are finally seeing the woman behind the curtain. The silence from Montecito continues to grow louder by the day. As the images spread and the detectives connect the dots, the Duchess is left with a choice that will define the rest of her public life. She can stay in the shadows and hope the storm passes, or she can finally step into the light and address the history she has spent a decade trying to bury. But if the 2026 leaks are any indication, the shadows are no longer a safe place to hide. The people who once protected her past have decided that the time for silence is over. And once the discretion code is broken, there is no going back. What does this mean for Prince Harry? That is the question that has royal watchers truly worried. If he was sold the same fairy tale that the public was, how does he react when the documentation of a different life starts hitting his screen? Does he stand by the woman he sacrificed everything for? Or does the weight of the evidence start to create cracks in the California manse? The 2026 leaks aren't just a threat to a brand. They are a threat to a marriage that was built on a very specific version of the truth. If that version is proven to be a construction, the fallout could be more explosive than anything we saw in the Netflix documentary. As the dust settles on this January 2026 reveal, we are left with a clear picture of how power and influence actually work. It's not about magic, and it's not about manifesting your dreams. It's about networking, positioning, and being in the right room at the right time with the right people. Meghan Markle was a master of that game. She played it better than almost anyone in Hollywood, and she played it all the way to the top. But the game of high-stakes networking has a very high cost of entry, and eventually, the bill always comes due. For the Duchess of Sussex, that bill arrived in January 2026 in the form of a few high-definition photographs that she likely believed were locked away forever. But what's truly wild is how the public is responding to the value exchange aspect of this story. For the first time, people aren't just judging her, they are studying her. They are looking at her yachting years as a blueprint for how a person can literally engineer their own destiny. It's a dark, modern version of the American dream. But the problem with engineering your destiny is that you have to be careful not to leave too many parts behind. The parts she left in the Mediterranean in 2010 are the same ones that are haunting her in 2026. And as the investigation continues, it's becoming clear that the story of Meghan Markle isn't a romance, it's a thriller. And we are just now getting to the most interesting chapter. As more information trickles out from these elite international networks, the pressure on the Sussexes is reaching a breaking point. Every new photo, every new witness, and every new record is a hammer blow to the self-made narrative. The world is no longer interested in the polished version. They want the raw, unedited truth. And in 2026, they have the tools to find it. The Yachting Years leak is a reminder that in the digital age, discretion is a luxury that no one can afford forever. Even for a duchess, the past is never really past. It's just waiting for the right moment to hit upload. If this deep dive into the 2026 leaks and the breakdown of the discretion code made you see the royal narrative in a new light, you aren't alone. The conversation is just beginning, and the evidence is still surfacing. What do you think is the real motive behind these leaks? Is it a warning shot or the start of a total exposure? Drop your theories in the comments below. I want to see how you're connecting the dots. If you want to stay updated as more of these files are decoded, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This is one story that isn't going away anytime soon. Don't forget to like and share this video with someone who still thinks the fairy tale is the whole story. We'll see you in the next one as we continue to follow the paper trail.